manipulation, betrayal, and murder. Today we will find out who the worst women in the Bible were, the crimes they committed, and the story behind them. If this topic interests you, consider helping us by liking and subscribing to the channel to help share this video. Third, as the worst woman in the Bible, we have Herodias. Before we talk about his atrocity, we need to understand what happened to John the Baptist. John the Baptist was a bold and charismatic prophet. He began to preach in the regions around the Jordan River, denouncing sins and encouraging people to repent. He attracted a considerable following due to his impactful message and his devotional life in the wilderness. The situation became tense when John the Baptist publicly criticized the marriage of Herod Antipas to Herodias. Herod Antipas, emperor of Galilee and Perea, had divorced his lawful wife and married Herodias. The problem is that she too had recently divorced her husband, and he was Philip, the brother of Herod Antipas. Herod Antipas' marriage to his brother's divorced wife was not only a moral issue, but also defied Jewish laws. John the Baptist courageously denounced this illicit union and did not hesitate to point out the moral consequences of this action. His fiery speech did not go unnoticed by Herodias, who, offended and threatened by John's message, desired to kill him. However, Herod Antipas had a relationship of admiration for John the Baptist. He initially respected John as a prophet, even though at times he was puzzled by his words. However, Herod Antipas eventually yielded to political and social pressures, as well as the influence of Herodias, and ended up ordering the arrest of John the Baptist. John the Baptist, while he was in prison, he becomes a figure of resistance, staying true to his principles even in the face of adversity. His arrest not only symbolizes the conflict between divine morality and human ambitions, but also becomes a turning point in history. Herodias was not satisfied. For her, arrest alone was not enough. She really wanted to execute John. The climax of Herodias' story occurs during an extravagant banquet given by Herod Antipas. Herodias strategically instructs her daughter, often identified as Salome, to dance and show off before Herod, enchanting her to the point that he promises to give her anything she asks. Then comes the great opportunity. Salome, instructed by her mother, he chooses as his prize the head of John the Baptist on a platter. Herod, a man of his word, bound by his oath and fearing the reaction of the guests, gives in to the request. Thus, John the Baptist, the bold prophet who criticized the marriage of Herodias and Herod, is finally executed. Second among the worst women in the Bible finds Athaliah. Athaliah's story begins in the corridors of power in Judah. She was the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, and thus had an ancestry deeply rooted in the political and spiritual instability that characterized that era. His son Acacius bravely ruled the northern kingdom. However, about 1 year later, both Acaciah, the ruler of Judah, and Jehoram, the leader of Israel, they met their tragic fates at the hands of were killed by Guo, commander of the Israeli army, after the death of his son. None of her descendants were old enough to assume the throne of Judah, so Athaliah saw an opportunity to further consolidate her position. She undertook an audacious maneuver, taking control of the throne, defying established expectations and traditions. Athaliah's ambition knew no bounds. Upon assuming power, she saw David's royal line as a threat to her newly acquired position. The lineage of David held special importance in Jewish tradition, representing the divine promise of a Messiah descended from David. Ordering the execution of all descendants of the house of David who could pose a future threat to his reign. This attempt to exterminate the royal line involved a series of violent assassinations aimed at eliminating any potential competition for their throne. However, his brutal strategy was eventually interrupted by Jehoiada, the high priest who hid Joash, David's only surviving descendant, in the temple. This bold action ensured the continuity of David's line, despite Athaliah's efforts. Sometime later, when Jehoash reached the appropriate age, Jehoiada orchestrated a plan to crown him king. Jehoiada performed a public ceremony on behalf of Joash, revealing the descendant of David. The population became fervent when they realized the imminent revolt. Athaliah tore her robes and screamed, "Betrayal, betrayal." However, the people following Jehoiada and supporting the legitimate restoration of David's lineage were not deceived by Athaliah's claims. Joash's accession to the throne was a pivotal moment, and Athaliah was captured outside the temple. She was taken to the royal palace and executed there. The biblical account in 2 Kings chapter 11 verse 16 records the death of Athaliah, thus ending her reign, marked by intrigue and violence. Now in the first place, the cruelest woman in the Bible, Jezebel, also called Jezebel. Jezebel, a Phoenician princess, married Ahab, king of Israel. Sealing a political alliance, her impact transcended the boundaries of marriage, for she brought with her worship a Baal, a pagan god, introducing idolatry into Israel. Her marriage to Ahab became a union marked by a powerful but negative influence that cast shadows over the Jezebel nation. She was a staunch advocate of a Baal worship, encouraging the construction of altars and temples dedicated to this pagan deity. Idolatry flourished under his influence, driving the people of Israel away from their traditional faith. Jezebel personified corruption and manipulation. Their influence introduced not only idolatry to foreign gods, but also a brutality against those who opposed it. She ordered the execution of several of Jehovah's prophets, eliminating those who opposed her religious beliefs, including an intense persecution of the prophet Elijah, whose life was threatened by the queen's fury. In addition, she abused royal power to fund and support hundreds of Baal prophets, using state resources to promote this foreign religion, a striking passage in the Bible. Regarding Jezebel's perversity, tells the story of Naboth, a righteous man and owner of a vineyard next to the royal palace, refused to sell his property to Ahab, even when the king offered fair compensation. Ahab's desire for Naboth's vineyard became an obsession, but the righteous man's refusal remained unshakable. This is where Jezebel's perversity comes in. Seeing Ahab's despondency at not getting the vineyard, she devises a malevolent plan to satisfy the king's wishes. Jezebel conspires to falsely frame the boat by arranging false charges against him. False witnesses are summoned to accuse in the boat of blasphemy against God and against the king. Jezebel's evil plan reaches its climax when Naboth is convicted and stoned to death based on trumped-up charges. The cruelty of this plot reveals not only Jezebel's wickedness, but also the moral corruption that permeated Ahab's reign. Jezebel in Israel. Divine justice was not slow to manifest itself. The prophet Elijah confronts Ahab and Jezebel, announcing divine judgment upon them for the death of Naboth, and that Jezebel's wickedness would not go unnoticed in God's eyes. The prophet Elijah proclaims that dogs would lick his blood in the city of Jezreel. Jezebel's death was as dramatic as her life. The Bible records that after Ahab's death, his son Gu assumed the throne. Gu, driven by a divine mission, confronted Jezebel. The queen tried to seduce him with her cunning, but divine justice prevailed. Jezebel was thrown out of a window by an officer of the king, and her body was devoured by dogs, as foretold in Elijah's prophecy. Hope you enjoyed today's story, please. Leave in the comments of which city you're watching this video, and remember to subscribe to the channel to help spread our work. Hugs, and stay with God.